He was not accepting of this garbage. He has become accepting of it. Last night, he wasn't even angry after the game.
Apparently, there is a feud in broadcast media.
That is ridiculous.
That is what the Jets are telling.
That is utter nonsense.
Listen, I am.
Get me the player association on the phone there. I'll prove it right. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Since when can the union tell you who to put on the field?
Between longtime sports media man Mike Francesca.
And I think that they began to view me as much as an annoyance as an asset.
And a staple in the industry, Bob Costas.
Alex,
or otherwise it's like
wait a second. Java, wait a second. Alex, what's Java's ERA this year?
Wait, it was 3.7 going into last night, so what, maybe 3.8, 3.9 right now?
3.9. Wait a second. Andy Pettit is a starting pitcher. Andy Pettit's a starting pitcher who's won almost 200 games. What are you talking about?
If Andy Pettit goes 6 innings...
Andy Pettit can't pitch the...
It's a miracle.
Hey, Alex, Andy Pettit can't pitch the 8th inning. Hey, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Get me the Java stats for his career. I'll teach Alex a lesson here.
Francesca, a giant in sports talk radio, has had some of the most iconic rants.
Mike, I don't know if you saw it, but did you see Carson Palmer and Sam Darnold were together this week? I guess they met out at Jets camp. If you put them together, you get a Darnold Palmer. Woo!
You do this show at your home. My question is, do you do it in your underwear? I'll hang up and listen.
If that's what you're excited about, I can't help you. Sorry. Brian in Howell, New Jersey. What's up, Brian?
Yeah, hi. You called me at a bad time right now. I just ate some.
All right. So there's just a dope who's home from school today. Go read a book.
Coupled with some of the funniest moments of listener trolling in sports radio that the industry has ever seen.
Are you a competitive person?
Not really. Not when it comes to that.
But other broadcasters?
No. I truly am someone who appreciates other broadcasters. I have my opinions and preferences like anybody else.
So why is Bob Costas brought into this? Apparently, Francesca is no fan, as heard on his Bet Rivers podcast.
So you got 3 home runs. You use the power. Costas, who will not be quiet no matter what. Listen, Costas has just, I don't know, he thinks that I guess every word is golden because he just will not shut up. Everything's a history lesson. We don't need a history lesson every 2 seconds. Okay? Everybody's a Yankee fan. They have Yankee history. They understand Yankee history. They know it backwards and forwards. This is not a history class. It's a baseball game. Be quiet. Do the game. He's driving everybody crazy.
I do find this interesting that Francesca would go in on Costas. After all, the game of baseball is considered by some to be the hardest sport to call for its pace or lack thereof. Vin Scully, rest in peace, was the best at filling the gap without ever appearing to try too hard.
I spend time going through magazines and books and cutting out little clippings so that when that man goes to the mound, I have a couple of notes on him. The 12 different organizations that Mike Morgan pitched for, the record with every team that he pitched for, because he's phenomenal. He's over 40 and he's still going. He started at 18. And all throughout this book, there are little pieces of paper which I have clipped and saved and filed away. And then when I get home, I'll put them in the respective guides. And then when the time comes, I can open up my guide and I've got a note. Oh my gosh, that's right. This fella joined the team for a 1 o'clock game, got up at 2:30, caught a 4:30 flight, got to the ballpark without any sleep, really without any food, started and hit a home run. Well, I would not have known that, but I read about it in an article in a newspaper, cut it out in the guide, and now suddenly when Danny Bautista comes up and I open up, oh yeah, Bautista's the fellow. And I have a little extra note.
Francesca would then continue his rant on Bob Costas.
Just got to get through one more game of Bob talking so much. I feel bad for Ron. Ron's going to hear Bob in his sleep because Bob, listen, we all know that Bob Costas is a very talented announcer, a talented sportscaster. Okay, I've known him my whole adult life, all right? But he has absolutely just talked on and on and on and just droned on and on and on this entire series about absolutely nothing for the most part. I mean, please, just give the game tomorrow night a chance to breathe. Please, it's a Game 5. It's a dramatic series. It's a dramatic fifth and deciding game. Let it breathe, Bob. Please, you've squeezed this thing for all its life, and it's almost like Bob's been locked away somewhere, just dying to talk, and now you can't shut him up because he just has not stopped talking for a second in the Yankee series. Not even a little as he stopped talking. He is just about everything. I mean, no matter what it is, he just never stops. So please, let the dramatic Game 5 breathe a little bit.
Awful announcing's Brandon Contes would write in rebuttal, the irony of Francesca being the person to tell someone else they're talking too much is not lost on anyone. But Francesca is a sports talk host, with the key word being talk, while play-by-play announcers are supposed to accent the game, not dominate it. Francesca is not alone in his criticism of Costas, as social media has been filled with fans imploring the iconic play-by-play voice to take a breath throughout the series. Joe Buck, meanwhile, is likely seeing the criticism and enjoying his own decision to stop calling baseball games. Costas is a Hall of Fame broadcaster who has called 3 World Series throughout his illustrious career, but his 2022 ALDS performance probably won't be honored by Cooperstown. As someone who has been in the industry for a while, and I mean this sincerely, as someone who called high school football and basketball and, collegiate football and basketball games at Indiana University, my alma mater, and did it poorly. Let me just say, okay? There is nothing wrong with what Bob Costas is doing. There is nothing wrong with it. I think Brandon Contes' point about Joe Buck watching all of this unfold, and now every single baseball fan who's watching the postseason, novice or diehard, taking all of it in and saying, yep, see, doesn't feel so good, does it? Because Joe Buck got crapped on over and over and over again. So I'm sure he's watching this and saying, I feel bad for Bob, but I mean, it just shows that it is not based on one person. It is based on that seat. And I don't know what sort of perfection they are looking for, but we just get criticized left and right all the time. Not saying we're victims whatsoever. What I am saying is we are putting ourselves out there. Sometimes we don't perform up to the task. Other times it's a bit harsh. What I will say is that Francesca making this bold claim that every Yankee fan knows every nook and cranny about this history, that is wrong. I personally don't believe it is the fault of Bob Costas to go over some stats or go over some background. There's nothing wrong with it. What we were told when we come back from a break, if there was like one big story that day, this is on a live show that I did previously, like, hey, just when we come back, you always have to think that you are getting new viewership and they didn't see what happened previously in the show or in the game or what have you. That's why you always hear the score being repeated. That's why you always hear, what the starting pitchers did or a move that a manager made, because you don't know who was tuning in when, okay? And lastly, and I said this previously, baseball, to some, is the hardest sport to broadcast because of the time in between plays. You have to fill so much time, whether it's radio or television. Television, you could certainly get away with it longer because you're not, as it is with radio, painting the picture of what you're seeing. However, to be too informed is like quite a criticism, I must say. So where do you stand? I am open to the discussion, as I always am. Leave your thoughts where you know to leave them. And you know what? Enjoy Game 5 because it's going to be awesome.